Today we are going to start discussing the basic principles of osmosis, and the first topic we are going to discuss is osmosis itself, or the definition of osmosis, what is osmosis and how it is helpful. Now we have started the kidneys and the body fluids, and we have discussed the different body fluids, the intracellular fluid, the extracellular fluid, the interstitial fluid. So it is important to discuss the osmosis as well, because osmosis helps the human body to maintain proper amount of intracellular fluid, extracellular fluid, and proper amount of interstitial fluid, as well as it is helpful in maintaining the concentration of different ions like sodium, chloride, potassium, etc. So let's start discussing the osmosis in this lecture, and then in the subsequent lectures we will discuss the difference between moles and osmoles, osmolality and osmolarity. Similarly, we will discuss osmotic pressure and osmolarity. Then we will discuss the calculation of osmolarity and osmotic pressure of a solution. So let's start discussing the osmosis. Osmosis is basically the movement, it is the movement or the diffusion of water molecules across a selectively permeable membrane. It is the movement of water molecules through a selectively permeable membrane from a region of high concentration of water to one that has lower concentration of water. Osmosis is the movement of water, or H2O. And it's simple. The water will basically move from a region where the concentration of water is high to a region where the concentration of water is low. Or it is the movement of water from a region where there is less concentration of ions or electrolytes to a region where there is a high concentration of ions, electrolytes, or solute. Now, we will take an example, and in example, we are considering it as the intracellular fluid and the extracellular fluid. This is just for the sake of an example. And then slowly and gradually, as we keep on discussing these terminologies, and we keep on discussing the renal system and the kidneys, the functions of the kidneys, these concepts will come into very handy, and they will be very helpful for the understanding of all the concepts. So this is an example in which we have considered the extracellular fluid and the intracellular fluid. For example, this is the extracellular fluid, and here is the intracellular fluid. This is the extracellular fluid, and here is the intracellular fluid. Now suppose, for example, in the extracellular fluid, in the fluid outside the cell, there are a lot of electrolytes or solute. We will call it solute, which may be sodium or chloride or potassium. Normally outside the cell, the potassium concentration is very high. Inside this cell, the sodium concentration is very high. So let's suppose, for example, there is a lot of solute present outside the cell, and there is decreased amount of solute inside the cell. You can see these red orange color dots basically present the solute or sodium, potassium, chloride, ions, etc. And if you see the extracellular, intracellular fluid, there is a lot of water, and the solute concentration is very low. If these two fluids are separated with the help of a semi-permeable membrane, or a selectively permeable membrane. Now suppose, for example, this is a selectively permeable membrane. It means that this membrane will allow the movement of water, but it will not allow the movement of sodium, potassium, and chloride, ion, etc. Or it will not allow the movement of solute, but it will allow the movement of solvent, which is water in this case. So as the concentration of water is high here, more water is present here as compared to the water in this compartment. So slowly and gradually the water will start moving across this semi-permeable membrane towards this compartment, from the intracellular compartment towards the extracellular compartment. And after some time, the result will be like this. The amount of water in this compartment will decrease. The amount of water in this compartment will decrease, and the concentration of ions or the concentration of solute in this compartment, the extracellular fluid compartment, will decrease, because concentration is basically the amount of solute. It is the amount of solute in a specific amount of fluid. Here more solute was present. Here, for example, 1 gram was present per 1 ml. Now here the same 1 gram is present per 2 ml. So the concentration has decreased, and the movement of water has occurred. And this movement of water has occurred through a semi-permeable membrane or a selectively permeable membrane. And this movement of water across a semi-permeable membrane from a region where the concentration of water is high to a region where the concentration of water is low is known as osmosis. So osmosis is the movement of water basically through a semi-permeable or a selectively permeable membrane, a membrane which will allow the movement of water but will not allow the movement of solute ions from a region where there is a high amount of water or higher water concentration to a region where there is low concentration of water. So here in the same chamber, the amount of water was less. Here in this same chamber, the amount of water is high. Here the amount of water is less because some of the space has been occupied by these solutes, this solute. So the solute concentration is high and water is pulled toward this solute due to this concentration difference, and this movement of water is known as the osmosis. And once this has occurred, the result is very much clear that there is a decrease in the concentration of water here in this compartment, in the intracellular compartment, and there is an increase in the concentration of water in the extracellular fluid compartment. But similarly, there is a decrease in the concentration. The water concentration in this compartment increases. The water concentration in this compartment basically increases because more water comes here, but the solute concentration here in this compartment decreases. This in this compartment, the solute concentration decreases. Now less amount of solute is present in the same amount of fluid. Previously, for example, here 1 gram was present per 1 ml. Now 1 gram is present per 2 ml. So the concentration of solute has decreased. Now take another example. If in the intracellular fluid, the solute concentration is high and the water concentration is low, and the water concentration in the extracellular fluid is high, but the solute concentration in the extracellular fluid is low solute concentration in the extracellular fluid and high solute concentration in the intracellular fluid. Similarly, high here the solute concentration is high and the water concentration is low. So the water concentration here is low, but the water concentration here is high. So water will move again from a region with a high concentration of water, through a semi-permeable membrane to a region where the water concentration is low. And the result is like this. This much water has moved from the extracellular fluid compartment into the intracellular compartment. Now, initially, for example, the concentration of solute in this compartment was 1 gram per 1 ml. Now the concentration, the solute concentration here has become 1 gram per 2 ml. So the solute concentration from high has decreased in this compartment because initially high concentration of solute was present in this compartment, but as water has pulled toward this compartment due to the concentration difference, now the solute concentration has decreased, but the water concentration here was high. Now the water concentration in this compartment has decreased. The water concentration initially in this compartment was less. But now in this compartment the water concentration has increased. So it is very simple and obvious from this example that basically osmosis is the movement of water through a semi-permeable membrane. If this is not a semi-permeable membrane, if there is some other kind of membrane which will not allow the movement of water, or which will allow the movement of only ions, something for example, then this will not happen. If there is a semi-permeable membrane, and that semi-permeable membrane is basically separating two different compartments in which there is high concentration of water on one side and low concentration of water on the other side, there will be movement of water from high concentration of water towards low concentration of water. In other words, if there is a high concentration of solute or high concentration of ions on one side and low concentration of solute and low concentration of ions, there will be movement from the compartment with low concentration of ions and high concentration of water to a region where there is high concentration of ions and low concentration of water. And after some time, when this movement has occurred, the concentration of ions will basically decrease in this compartment, and the concentration of ions will decrease here in this compartment. The concentration of ions will decrease in this compartment, and concentration of water will decrease in this compartment. So that's osmosis. Now, why are we studying it? Because it is very helpful. Osmosis basically is important for maintaining homeostasis. It is important for maintaining homeostasis or similar circumstances or similar environment for the cell. Cells can function properly only if they are provided a very optimal condition in which all the functions of the cells can take place. And this osmosis is very important because the membrane of the cells, the cell membrane is a very, very semi-permeable or a selectively permeable membrane. So osmosis can take place easily whenever in conditions like vomiting, diarrhea, or sweating, or heat or weather conditions. If there is water loss or if there is increased intake of water, there is always this osmosis taking place, and it is basically helping the human body to maintain similar condition, to maintain homeostasis, to maintain optimal and normal conditions in the extracellular fluid, in the intracellular fluid, and similarly in the plasma. So it is basically trying to maintain the optimal conditions to provide an environment, a normal environment to the cells of all the tissues, and so that all the functions of the cells can take place under optimal conditions. So that's all about the osmosis. In the next lecture, we are going to discuss mole and osmol. Thank you. Thanks a lot for watching the video.